we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million.
How did you feel about the mayor's little video?
It was creepy and weird. Mamdani's making it really clear. New York doesn't welcome success.
I want you to think about something. Let's say you're working at a small to mid-sized company. They are paying you a six-figure salary. They match your 401k. They provide incredibly substandard health insurance through no fault of their own since, Barry Obama completely dismantled the healthcare system by making normal people pay exorbitant premiums so people who refuse to work can have access to health care for free. The owner of the company gives you 3 weeks of paid vacation every year, which is 3 weeks more than Uncle KC gets. You get a Christmas bonus. The owner hires people and promotes people based on merit. He refuses to allow the disease of diversity to infect his business. One day, a small contingent of employees, they start complaining. They come together and they organize a movement demanding that the owner of the company pay them more. We demand our fair share. He's already paying his employees 10, 15, 20% above market. He takes care of his people. He treats them like family. Are you going to join Club DUMPS and attack the man who is responsible for feeding your family? That is essentially what Zohran Mamdani is doing by attacking the wealthy in New York City. Or, as Zorro and his pretend friend AOC LGBT prefers to call them, those evil, greedy billionaires. Two people who have never created a single job. Two people whose only contribution to New York City is releasing toxic ass gas. As you guys know, there is already enough ass gas in New York City. Every morning on The View, the flatulating Yenta Whoopi Goldberg releases boodle breeze with wind speeds that are more powerful than Hurricane Katrina. Two people who have never had a real job. Uncle Casey, that's not true. Ocasio was a bartender. Yeah, I know bartending is hard work, but I'm talking about jobs that you need to support a family. Ocasio serving watered-down drinks to lonely dudes ain't feeding a family of 4. Zohran Mamdani and AOC, the indefinitely unemployed, they want to tell billionaires, they want to tell high achievers, they want to tell people who are responsible for creating thousands, millions of jobs, how to spend their money. Someone please make it make sense. The top 2% of income earners in New York City, they pay almost half the taxes. Now, let me break that down for the mathematically challenged. Of the millions and millions of people living in New York City, there are essentially a handful that are paying most of the taxes. Now, with that being the case, you would think Zohran Mamdani would be doing everything he can to make New York City an easy place to call home. I know there is this stigma that wealthy people can be hard to please, but it's really not that hard. Clean the doodle off the sidewalks, send Mahmoud back to Somalia, let the NYPD fight real crime instead of fighting pro-Palestinian protesters who, ironically enough, refuse to go to Palestine to express their grievances. All Zorro has to do is make New York City a relatively easy place to do business. But instead, Zohran Mamdani has decided to portray job creators as the enemy. He has gathered up the non-binary troops in the woke army and declared war on corporate America. But there's just one problem, one tiny problem. Instead of corporate America wasting their time fighting blue-haired Claire and her spiritual leader Abdullah, billionaires, they have decided that it would be more cost-effective to leave New York City, and they're taking their money along with their thousands of jobs with them. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Today on the second channel, going to be talking about the latest problem in the NBA. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the best team in the league, is an absolute eyesore. This team is so unwatchable, they have replaced the Lakers as the most hated team in the league. With networks paying $76 billion, I explain why the Thunder is a real problem for the NBA. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Recently, Ken Griffin, a billionaire who owns a hedge fund called Citadel, he decided winters in New York City combined with Zohran Mamdani threatening to confiscate his wealth, Ken Griffin decided that these problems were no longer worth dealing with. So he moved his family down to Miami. Uncle Casey, who cares? It's just one billionaire moving his family to a warmer climate. When I was growing up and I would complain about the rules in my parents' house, my dad would always tell me, "He who has the gold makes the rules." It's a very simple concept that I understood as a prepubescent boy. But at 34 years old, Zohran Mamdani is having a hard time understanding, mainly because he's never had a job. You see, Ken Griffin moving to Miami, it creates a domino effect. He's not just moving his family, he's also moving his business. Ken Griffin was planning to invest $6 billion to expand his company in New York City. That $6 billion is now being invested in Florida. And that $6 billion, that's just the beginning. The people working for Ken Griffin moving to Florida, the thousands of jobs that he wanted to create, which represents millions in tax revenue, moving to Florida, the billions of dollars in taxes that Ken Griffin pays every year, moving to Florida, where he's actually saving billions of dollars because there's no state income tax in Florida. Now, what is Zohran Mamdani doing to prevent more billionaires from dumping this dump like Ken Griffin did? Watch for yourself.
I want all New Yorkers to succeed. That includes business owners and entrepreneurs who create good paying jobs, who make this city the economic engine, not just of our state, but frankly of our country. And that also includes Ken Griffin. That does not negate the fact, however, that our tax system is fundamentally broken. It rewards extreme wealth while working people are pushed to the brink. It is a status quo that is unsustainable, that is unjust. And if we want the city to be one that working people can actually afford to live in, then we need meaningful tax reform that includes the wealthiest New Yorkers paying their fair share.
For starters, New York City doesn't have a revenue problem. They have a spending problem. New York City doesn't have a tax problem. Hell, they're already some of the highest taxes in the country. The only dump that rivals New York in taxes is the People's Republic of California, another polished turd that is dealing with a mass exodus of high achievers and a mass influx of people who don't do shit. Zohran Mamdani is talking tough now, but his toxic mouth farts are creating a financial crisis in New York City. Headline at the New York Post: Mamdani's billionaire bashing could cost New York City $12 billion as residents flee and jobs disappear. I know this is difficult for Zorro to understand because he lives off of mommy and daddy's money. Normal people have to work for a living. Normal people have to support themselves. It is incredibly expensive to live in New York City. Normal people can't support their families by shoveling snow-covered doodle for $20 an hour. Normal people can't pay rent by working at the Quality Leering Center. In order to live in New York City, normal people need high-paying jobs, which can only be provided by people with money. If rich people leave, normal people follow. When Ken Griffin moved his company out of Chicago, it cost the toxically windy city $3.5 billion. There are 300 corporate and financial firms in New York City. Those 300 companies are responsible for creating 1 million jobs, $13.5 billion in taxes, $370 billion to the city's GDP. If 10% of those companies follow Ken Griffin to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, if 10% leave Zorro's dump, it would be a crisis. If 30% leave, which some experts are predicting, it would be catastrophic. It's the classic case of you don't know what you got till it's gone. The other day, I was talking to one of my friends. He's in the process of renovating his childhood home. When we were in high school and college, that was our meetup spot. We spent many nights on that swing in the backyard, allowing the oak tree to get acquainted with the smoke from another tree. We were talking about memories and realized that the memories that we were talking about happened 20 years ago. To us, it feels like yesterday. Growing up, like most parents, my dad would tell me all the time about the good old days. He would tell me how fast time flies as you get older. When you're young, you don't understand it, but I understand it now. We tend to take our youth for granted. When you're young, you think that those times are going to last forever. Your group of friends, you think you'll be friends for life. Next thing you know, you're 41 years old, haven't seen most of those friends in decades, and you find yourself wondering, where in the hell did the last 20 years go? 41 years of my life, New York City has been the cultural and financial capital of the country. People dreamed of living in New York City. It's always been said, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And you think that it's always going to be this way. But today, instead of people dreaming of living in New York City, they are dreaming of getting the hell out of there. Zohran Mamdani is taking billionaires for granted. They've always lived here. They've always threatened to leave. I can take a little more of their money and they're not going to do shit about it. He who has the gold makes the rules. Zohran Mamdani might think that he has all the power, but that power is an illusion. Zorro doesn't have the gold. And the people with the gold, they are becoming increasingly unwilling to share that gold with Zorro. As a result, New York City is well on its way to becoming unrecognizable. And I believe that is exactly what Zohran Mamdani wants. I believe his plan to turn New York City into an Islamic paradise, that plan is working to perfection. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.